Hello and welcome to my video. Today I'll be taking this old coffee table that I paid $20 for, and with just a little bit of material and a whole lot of labor, I'm going to turn it into a nice looking piece of furniture. This table was made by Bassett Furniture. They were the company that made one of my favorite lines of furniture, the Brasilia collection. This table was pretty torn up with the edge banding in pretty bad shape, and a lot of the finish on the top was scratched, but I thought it could look really good and had a lot of potential. But anyway, off we go. I'm using Citrus Strip Finish Remover. It works really well. It takes a little while, but it doesn't have a terrible smell. It won't run you out of your shop or house or wherever you're applying it. And it's water-based, so you don't have to worry a lot about weird chemicals and having to clean up. I'm going to apply it as heavy as I can, make sure to get it on everything. Then I'll cover with plastic and I'll let it sit overnight. Keep it covered so that it won't dry out, and then the next day you can scrape it. You'll want to wear some rubber gloves and have some glasses on in case some of it flicks in your eyes. And also you'll want to wear some old clothes or a Tyvek suit because it gets pretty messy. It doesn't have much odor, so if you have any ventilation, that shouldn't be a problem. I'm covering it up with some 3M painter's plastic. I'm just going to make sure that it's covered up tight, get all the air out of it, and try to keep it wet for 24 hours until I come back and scrape it. As you can see, the finish is bubbled up nicely. I'm taking 2 plastic scrapers and trying to get all of it off that I can. It's very sticky and a heck of a mess, so have a trash can with a trash bag in it nearby. I'm taking mineral spirits and wiping off what's remaining of the finish. I'm wiping it off over and over again till the rag stays pretty clean. This gets a lot of the leftover finish off that the scraping didn't get. The old banding was in bad shape but still attached very well. Eventually I figured out how to use the heat gun and heat the metal scraper up, and that caused the glue to let go a lot easier. After I got the banding and the glue off of the scraper and the heat gun, I took a sanding sponge and went around all the edges trying to get them flat and smooth as possible so that the new banding would stick. I'm using 3/4 inch pre-glued white oak edge banding that I bought on Amazon. It wants to stay coiled up, so I'm using some painter's tape to hold it in place. I'm just using a regular iron on high to heat up the glue. The edging is fitting the width of the tabletop very close, so all I'm going to have to do is some light sanding to get it flush. It sticks very well, and with 3 coats of finish on top of it, it will definitely be bound tight to the top. The only time I've had trouble with this kind of banding is when the edge of what I'm covering is too rough and not flat and smooth, and then the glue does not want to get a good grip on the edge. After I had cleaned the table off really good with mineral spirits, I let it dry for a while to make it easier to sand. If it's still kind of wet and gummy, it will gum up your sandpaper and slow you down, so let it dry and set back up before you start sanding. I'm starting with 120 grit sandpaper, and although the veneer on this old table is pretty thick, I want to be careful and not get too aggressive with the sandpaper and cut through the veneer. I'll use 120, then 150, and then finish with 220 grit sandpaper. Now I'm using my finish sander to get into some of the areas that my orbital sander wouldn't reach. I'm using my oscillating multi-tool. I call it a fine tool, but I still say skill saw as well. Somebody needs to come up with a good name for it because nobody really knows what to call it on the job. But it's handy. I've worn out 3 of them and everybody's got one. I am using it here with a triangular sanding attachment that comes in handy for getting in those tight little places around the spindles and all the little nooks and crannies. Man, at this point the table is clean. I mean, the finish is gone off this thing, and I'm really wanting to spray the bottom of it with lacquer and do a hand wipe poly on the top. But I promised someone I'd paint it, so I'm going to paint the legs and to stain the top 2 pieces. But if I would have known this thing was going to look this good after sanding it, I would have definitely been staining it and spraying it with some lacquer. Now I'm just vacuuming up the dust, and I'm going to wipe it down with a microfiber towel and get it good and clean. I took the top off so I could get to the bottom and around the edges for spraying. Now I'm masking off the sides to keep the paint off the stained part. I'm using my 3M masking tool that I use a lot when I do cabinet painting and some exterior stuff. There's a little bit of a learning curve to those, but they can be aggravating, but once you learn to use them, they're really handy and really quick. Now I've moved to my spray booth where I'll be spraying the sides and the legs. I'm using a paint called Amerium. The finish is a pre-cat lacquer, and I'm mixing the primer right now. It's a 2-step process. I'll mix the primer and then an activator or hardener, and I'll be spraying them with my HV LP gun. I'm spraying the first coat of primer. With all the edges and inside pieces, it's a difficult thing to paint, so I'm trying to go real light with the paint and do 2 coats so I don't get any runs. And now more sanding before the second coat of primer. Now I'm taking some caulk and I'm going to caulk up a few places where I can see cracks. The advantage to priming at first is twofold. One, it shows you where the imperfections are and the cracks and holes that need to be filled. Also, the caulking sticks much better to the primer than it would to the bare wood. I'm now staining the top using Varathane wood stain. I'm using a color called Briar Smoke. I'm wiping it on kind of heavy and then wiping it off with a cotton rag, making sure I try to get as much off of the wood as possible. Now back in the spray booth, I finally get to put some color on the table. The color is called peppercorn. It's a Sherwin-Williams color that is very popular. Once again, I'll be putting 2 light coats on the table. I'm now using a 3M vinyl stripping pad and going over the first coat of finish. I'm just scuffing up a little bit so the next coat will stick well and to knock off any little nibs or high spots. You don't have to sand a whole lot, you just want to go over it thoroughly and rub your hand along as you sand to fill for any rough places. After that, I'm wiping it down with a microfiber and then blowing it off with some air, and then it's ready for the final coat. After applying the final coat, I'm going over it with a bright light, looking to make sure I didn't miss any spots, aka holidays, because it's a bummer to clean everything up and then find a spot you missed. Now I'm just taking the masking off so I can paint the bottom part of the table. I'm putting some more masking tape on the sides to keep the stain off the paint. After the stain is dried overnight, I'm now applying Varathane water-based polyurethane. I'm using a matte sheen. I used this before on a construction company conference table and had really good results. It's very low odor and it dries very hard. I went with this because the top of the table will probably get treated rough and get wet a lot, and this product is excellent for that. I put 3 coats sanding in between the first coat and the second coat with a sanding sponge, and then before the final coat I used the green finishing pad. I'm trying to work the finish quickly and not overwork it. I want to give it time to sit and level out. I'm gluing the top back down. I hope no one ever needs to try to take it off. I'm very happy with the way the table turned out. I don't know if my camera work shows, but the paint looks great. It's very slick and the top is very hard and will hold up over a long time of rough use. Thanks for watching.